everyone, hope everybody's well and keeping safe in these really strange times. It's been a while since I've done any kind of little videos or anything, so I thought today I'll take a few minutes to do a little video about brushing. I did do I posted some photos and a little bit of information about not brushing your dog and what can potentially happen, the matting and the pelting of coats, what can happen if you don't brush your dog. And you saw the photos of the dog that I had to clip off. A lot of people, there were a good response to it, and a lot of people actually asked me, well, I do struggle. I do struggle how to brush a dog. How do you do it properly? Is there a certain way, this, that and the other? And, there's nothing wrong with actually admitting that. Dogs don't come with a manual when you buy them. And certainly the breeds that are around at the moment, like your Cockapoos, your Cavapoos, your Cavachons, all that sort of stuff, they do require a lot of brushing and a lot of maintenance at home. It can't just be left for the groomer, because by the time it gets to the groomer, that's when they end up all matted and, it has to be clipped off. The reason we do clip off, like I said before in my post before, it's nothing to do with it being easy or quick fix or anything like that. It is literally for the welfare of the dog. It is cruel to start brushing out mats and pelts in a coat. It will hurt. Probably put your dog off being brushed for life. So yeah, it's just doesn't happen. I have a zero tolerance on matting, and dogs are clipped off if they come in like that. If you want to keep your dog nice and mat free, etc., it is brushing literally every day. And also as well, having regular visits to the groomers every 6 to 8 weeks, roughly. Well, I'd say 6 weeks really, if you want to keep the dog's coat quite longish and not clipped off. Penny sat with me a minute. So I just wanted to give you a bit of information about brushing. A lot of people, the first question they'll ask me is, what brush is the best brush to use? Personally, I've always used slicker brushes anyway, and slicker brushes are great nowadays because they come with a flex, so it flexes with the dog, so you can get into them nooks and crannies if you like. And this brush is from a company called Simpson's, and it's specifically designed for your doodle breeds, so your Cavapoos, your Cockapoos, your Cavachons, this, that and the other, Labradoodles, all that sort of thing. And this brush is fantastic, and it really helps Penny. It really helps to get, she knows I've got the brush, it really helps to get to the coat, to the undercoat and everything like that. So that's a really good brush to use, and use it from pup. One side's a little bit harsher than the other, a bit softer and a bit harsher, and that's just obviously if you've got any tough bits you need to get through, then you use the harsh side, and the softer side for the areas that maybe are a bit shorter and not so tough to get through. You've also got to think about when you're brushing with a slicker brush, people say, oh, I'm scared of them, what if they scratch my dog, blah blah blah. They don't scratch as long as you use it properly. If you start brushing against the skin and pulling it, then you are going to get scratches, and it's going to hurt. But if you just pat gently, I'll show you in a bit when I do Penny, but pat it out gently, do it in sections, then you'll be fine. The other thing is combs. So it works for some, everybody's different, everybody has a different technique. This isn't one way of doing everything. I'm just showing you my way because it's worked for me for over 12 years now, and it's worked well. So I'm just sharing it obviously with you guys. All groomers are different, everybody has different opinions. Some people use combs only to groom their dogs, and if it works and the dog's happy with it, then fair enough. Personally, I don't. I think using just a comb can end up pulling the dog a little bit and tugging on the fur, so we don't tend to use combs for that reason. Combs are used at the very end when you've brushed. You go through with the comb to check there's any knots, then if there is a knot, go back in with your brush. Don't use the comb to get it out because it will hurt the dog. So that's it, and it must try and stick with a pretty good wide tooth comb. This is a Colin Taylor comb, and that's the only combs I use. They're nice and strong and sturdy, and they are really good quality, and they last a long time. So the other thing people sometimes ask is, oh, if I've got a few knots and things, what can I use? Is there any kind of detangle sprays and things like that? There are lots of detangle sprays out there on the market. Again, the only one that I will use is this one called Banish, and this is from Simpson's again, the company who sell the brushes. And this is brilliant. I cannot rate it highly enough. I love it, and it does get out knots and tangles. It's good for you can use it on a wet coat, use it on a dry coat. So if you get a tail and it's a little bit knotty, and you spray a bit of this on it, work it in a little bit, and then use your brush, and it will help to get it out. So that's pretty much it for my equipment. Very, very basic when it comes to brushing. Obviously, it's other dog types, so it's, you know, it's not just your long-haired dogs that need grooming. There are other dog types out there that need grooming. Your short-haired, even like things like Labradors, where we would use things like your rubber brushes, if you like. These are great because these grip the fur and they get rid of all that undercoat and dead fur that casts quite a lot with the short hairs, and even the little razor things as well that razor out the coat. These are brilliant. So if you have got a dog with shorter fur, then yes, go with one of these. But anyway, going back to the dogs that I've got, so I generally have your spaniels, obviously Penny, who's a Cavachon, and Penny's quite long at the minute, so I've left her like that on purpose so I can show you about brushing. So I will give you a little demo in a minute on how to brush. And like I said, there's absolutely no harm in asking for the advice. It's not always as straightforward. So bear with me, I'll get ready and we'll crack on and get her brushed. Right, I'm back. So we're back to do a bit of brushing and show you what to do after I've spoke about the equipment. And the first thing I would say is a bit like I did with when I was showing you the grooming and the clipping and trimming and stuff, is if you can try and maybe get your dog a little bit higher than you, because a lot of people make the mistake of brushing their dog on the floor, and like you're looking down on them with this brush and coming towards them, and they don't often like it, and it can be a bit daunting. So something I used to do before I could groom and before I did what I do is put your dog on the settee, sit on the floor, and then give them a brush whilst they're there. And that gives them that, they think they're at your height, your level, if you know what I mean. The other thing people do is often they'll give treats and things while they're grooming. I don't tend to do that, never have done. I think it's just a case of you've got to, your dog needs to learn that you're in charge and you're doing something for them. They get something at the end, but not during. Because sometimes it can, again, they might think, you know, well, I'm going to get a treat every time I'm brushed, rather than actually just sit there and let me just brush you. Do you know what I mean? But if it works for you, again, it works for you. I'm not taking that away from anybody before anybody says anything. So the other thing with matting and getting, you know, your coat matted or even in a knot or whatever, one of the most common things is when the dog's coat's wet. So if they've been out in the rain and they've got wet, they've come in and you've given them a scrub with the towel, it will knot it up. Then it dries and then it'll go like wool, because it'll grab onto it and it'll go like wet wool. If whilst your dog's drying, keep brushing. So even if the coat is a little bit wet, brush and brush it until it's dry. Keep brushing it every sort of like, I don't know, every half an hour or so, or even an hour whilst it's drying out. Just keep brushing through so that once obviously it does dry, it doesn't dry into those clumpy mats. And so that's pretty much with that bit. The other thing, looking at the dog, is your danger areas, as I call it. So you will get knotting will happen under the legs, into the groin areas, around the neck where the collar goes. These are the areas that are like areas of friction when the dog moves, or if you've got something on them, or even when they're wearing coats and things, you might get a bit of knotting around here. But the only way, as I say, you can get rid of not having knots at all is to brush every day. So Penny, stand up, darling. Penny just goes really tired on the table. So the thing with a dog like Penny, like a Cavachon, Cockapoo, things like that, they have different textures of fur depending on the body. So your tail tends to be a little bit more sort of fluffier, straighter, longer obviously. For me, the middle sections can be a little bit more woolly. Obviously then you've got the ears again that are straight and finer, so it will require different techniques in different areas. So her tail at the moment, it's not knotty, but it's just not brushed. I haven't brushed it for a few days, just for this purpose really. So it is a little bit just scraggy. But again, what I do is I use my Banish spray that I told you about this earlier from Simpsons. Give it a little mist of spray. Take your brush And just start in sections. So don't go straight in and go into everything. Just start in little sections, start at the end, put your brush, your fur onto your hand and just pat it out. Like so. Now tails are funny things because they don't tend to like them being touched because it's a balance thing as well with dogs. So if they prefer it whilst you're doing the tail, let them sit down. Sit down, good girly. Keep the tail down on the table or the settee or whatever. And then you'll probably find they're a lot more comfy. And you just brush this out like this. See, I'm actually brushing onto my hand and holding the tail with my thumb because then I'm not pulling at that bit there, that skin. So we'll go along. Like I said before, in the grooming world, we use the comb to check through. So is it going straight through? Yeah, it's going straight through there. So I know I'm all right in that bit. Section's done. How is it going to go straight through here? No, it's stopping. So I'll go back in with my brush. Brush it again. Once that bit's done, we'll check again. Is it going through? Yep, going through much better. So that's your straight bit. Looks nice and brushed. So that's brushed. That's not brushed. So you can see the difference. Okay? Onto the body. The biggest mistake people make with cockapoos, cavershons, doodle breeds in general, is they'll do a top brush coat. So they'll go like that. Okay, and think, yep, that's enough, that's fine, that's done, that's dusted. Take them to the groomers and the groomer will say, but your dog's naughty. No, they're not, I've had a brush. What you've done is you've done a top coat brush, you haven't gone underneath. I mean, Penny's not that long, but so you can't really see, but you need to go underneath and see. This is where the mats can occur. So the best thing to do to stop this is to actually pull the hair back with your hand or whatever, and pull it down when you're brushing, bit by bit. So then you get under that, well, it's the undercoat. You get under the undercoat, like so. And as you're brushing, just pull it down. So like say, the best thing to show you with that is probably on the feet where it's quite fluffy. So push it back and brush it down. Again, pat, like a patting motion. You're not pulling, just patting it ever so slightly. And each time you go further up, but you're pulling a little bit more fur down from underneath your thumb. Like that. Yeah, you see the combs going through that absolutely fine. The other thing to remember is dogs, how to handle them. So don't start pulling the legs out and stretching and stuff, that will hurt them. So just be really gentle. And again, if your dog wants to sit down, let them sit down. So I'll just show you again on this leg, this top leg. So if I was doing this at home or on the settee, so I'd use my hand to push the fur back, pat it out with the brush, and as you can see, every time I'm brushing, my brush is moving up ever so slightly and pulling a little bit down further from underneath my thumb, and that will ensure that you get underneath all that there. Top of the coat, again, same action. Put your hand up, push it back against itself, pull it down and brush. But little pats. Again, you're not pulling against the skin, you're scratching the skin, just little pats out and pull it from underneath your hand. Get underneath that undercoat. Because that's where the pesky little mats live. And to the naked eye or to somebody that's not trained as a groomer, it'll look fine. But as the groomer comes and pushes that back, we'll be able to see straight away that it needs clipping off. The next area obviously is your ears. So again, I use a little bit of spray. And same with the tail, put my hand under the ear, my thumb at the top there to protect it, so that again, you're not just going like that and pulling on a head and pulling that skin down. You put your hand there to stop that. And just gently. Again, with the ears, some ears can be really thick, so you can do a top coat. You can go, oh yeah, that's done. Yeah, but lift it. Like so, and you've got all this going on. So lift it. And pull it down with the brush. On each brush. Yeah. again, use your comb, check it through. Perfect. The areas, like I say, are under here. This can get quite knotty around here on the face. So again, just pat it out. Being really careful. Yep. Head, as I've shown you in the videos of trimming the face, use your, if you've got a beard dog, use the beard. Don't pull it, but just use it as a thing. Put your hand underneath the chin, so you've got that you're sturdying yourself on there, and just gently brush around the face. Put your hand as well, I showed you this before, under there, and thumb over the nose. That'll keep them nice and still. Don't get me wrong, they probably won't like it too much. I think I'd like having my face brushed. And then again, round cheeks. Always from the side. This is the other thing. You're straight into the face with the brush. See how Penny's flinching? She doesn't like that. But if you're coming into the side, they're not going to feel quite as threatened. And obviously the head, if you want to do the head, try to put the head down. Put your finger again over your thumb over the nose again, and you can just pat out the fur on the head. And again, I don't need to do it with Penny because she's been doing it for such a long time, but certainly with puppies and things, keep that reassurance going, keep talking to them. Good girl, good boy, well done. The reassurance and your voice will not make them realise that it's a good thing that's happening and it's not a bad thing. So, good girl. So, I'll show you this ear again, because it's always the ears that seem to be a problem. I'm going to show you properly, so section it up. Get the undercoat, and brush it down, and on each brush just take a little bit more from that bit that you've pulled up. You can generally hear it as well with the brush when there's a knot or something going on. There's a little knot here. Again, look how I'm holding the ear, I'm holding it here. So again, there, so that you're not, when you get to this knot, if I wasn't doing that right now, I'd be pulling on a skin here, on a scalp. That's not going to be comfy. I'm not going to thank you for that. So again, brush, 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 brush it out, comb, check. Yeah, if you come across a tiny little knot like that and the comb gets it, great, but don't use the comb solely for getting knots out. Use your brush. And that's that. I'll show you one of the front feet. She's dirty as well, she needs a bath. So again, like I did with that back one, just pull it up, pat it. Remember again, using your hands as support all the time. Again, a lot of people make the mistake, they'll grab them up here, start pulling. That's not nice, that's not comfy. Wherever you're working on, you hold that area for stability. And brush backwards as well on these dogs. There's no right or wrong way because their coat goes in all sorts of directions, so go backwards as well. Get that nice sort of fluffy effect that way. Good girl, Pen. Like that. So yeah, that's it. Nice and fluffy. But again, just remember the undercoat is what's really important. Don't just come along your dog and go like that. That isn't going to get it all. You need to get underneath as well. Chin as well, up around here. Holding it up. Use that beard. Doesn't hurt them. There we are. And if you do this every day, once, even twice a day, some people do it twice a day, I can assure you your dog will stay knot free. If, and I know there's some people like this, I have clients like it, you know, if you don't like brushing or you've not got time for brushing, it's not a problem. Don't feel ashamed to admit that to your groomer. In fact, us groomers appreciate people being honest. Actually say to them, can you take them short? It's because I don't really have time for brushing. It's not something I enjoy doing. It's not something my dog enjoys. I'd rather they were just short. Fine, It's absolutely fine. It's not a problem. I appreciate that honesty, and I'm sure your groomer would as well. So I hope you found this really, really useful. Keep on top of it. Keep brushing. Don't let your dogs get too naughty, and watch for this sort of weather, the wet weather, the damp weather. When they've had a bath as well, keep brushing whilst they're drying. That's the key thing as well. Don't ruffle the coat with a towel. And also the other thing I would say as well is try to stay away from hair dryers at home if you can. They are so different to the salon dryers. Salon dryers are a lot more gentler, the sound is different, we can control the heat better. Hair dryers you can't, and that can often frighten them. They come back to the groomers and then they're frightened of the dryers, and that's generally why. So yeah, that's pretty much my tips for brushing and keeping general maintenance of your dog at home. Keep doing it, keep brushing, keep on top of the coat, and you'll have a lovely knot-free, mat-free dog.